I'm Melissa Erickson, and you're listening to Gospel Tangents.
It's the best source for Mormon history, science, and theology. I'll make that up. Hey, you all probably remember Kody Brown and the Sister Wives show on the TLC channel. I'm excited to introduce some independent polygamists who actually bought Kody Brown's house right here in Lehi, Utah. So meet Josh, Charlotte, and Melissa Erickson. They live in Kody Brown's Sister Wives house, and I guess Charlotte and Melissa are sister wives in a way. So let's get acquainted with them. Check out our conversation. Welcome to Gospel Tangents. We're in a famous place here.
Semi-famous.
This is the home of what used to be Kody Brown's house with sister wives.
Right.
Could you, Joshua, introduce yourself and tell us a little bit more about where we are?
Okay. Yeah. We're the Ericksons. I'm Joshua Erickson.
Melissa Erickson.
I'm Charlotte Erickson.
Yep. And we live in this house now, and we actually...
And you all three are married to each other.
Yeah,
Yes.
That's right. That's right. Yeah, we're independent Mormon fundamentalists. With some unique caveats, I guess, which we'll get to. So, yeah, we actually purchased this house because being called to do what we're doing, and there's a whole story about that. Charlotte actually has a blog called Speaking of Polygamy, and she and we all have blog posts, and actually there's guest posters
writers
as well.
Yep.
Yeah. Actually, do you want to say a little bit about that? Well, what I was going to say is we have more of our story on the blog. So if you're interested in kind of the details, we'll give a brief overview here. But
Well, the blog started when the TV show Seeking Sister Wife started, and we would watch it together. And I had so much I wanted to say about it. I was like, I've got to write this down. So I started the blog to share like my thoughts about what was happening on the reality TV show Seeking Sister Wife. And it
is that different than...
That's different than Sister Wives. There's actually a surprising number of shows about polygamists. There's like...
Polygamy USA.
Yeah, see? So you can name another one. There's like a short documentary style with only 4 episodes called... what is it? The one with Enoch Foster?
I don't remember what that was called. American...
No, it's like something about 3 wives. I can't remember the names of all the shows right now, but...
One man and 3 wives.
Yeah, One Man, 3 Wives.
One Man, 3 Wives.
Or something.
It's a British one.
And there's the one that was Big Love. That was on HBO.
It's a fiction.
It was a fiction, but it was about, a fake polygamous family. That's fine.
Mm-hmm.
But anyway, so that was how the blog started, but I wanted it to be, and it has turned out to be about like scriptural concepts related to polygamy, like why it's not adultery, and like biblical figures who practice polygamy, and like why it makes sense in our modern society, and why the numbers work out for one man to be married to multiple women instead of the other way around, and why the biology works out that way too.
So lots of interesting.
So lots of different...
Got a few articles.
Yeah, lots of different topics, several different writers. So, and a whole section is devoted to just telling our story. So anyone who's curious can go poke around there and find what interests them on there. And it's speakingofpolygamy.com.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, yeah.
So we have an interesting story, and like I said, a lot of it's on there, and so we're kind of short on time here. So we have a lot of other things we want to talk about. But when, of course, we were all LDS, mainstream Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints.
You were the ward clerk even.
I was the ward clerk, that's right. Yep. And ward clerk and young men's presidency, and Charlotte was a Relief Society teacher and the choir pianist. And we'd all been in it since our birth, but we felt called here to do this and received revelation. And of course, we were excommunicated from the church, and we don't have any hard feelings towards the church for that. The church has rules, and we respect those rules and understand that. And our bishop was quite lovely, actually. If you can call excommunication lovely, it was a cordial experience. Yeah, we all three had separate trials, I met before the High Council, and Melissa and Charlotte just met with the bishopric. But once that happened, then we were kind of looking for a new place to worship or fellowship. And we came stumbled upon, actually, Melissa found a thing called the Zarahemla Foundation.
Yes, I was on the verge of deleting my Facebook, would have done it like 10 minutes later. And a man reached out and said that there was this fellowship available. And it was just very serendipitous.
So we attended, and the first meeting was just in the kitchen, which is behind you there. And there was a bunch of people who were from the AUB, actually, mostly, who had kind of wanted to get together, and they were fellowshipping together, a group of families. But they had decided to kind of open up their their fellowship to a broader audience. And so we came, and it just was in a kind of an immediate fit. Mm-hmm. But at some point, this house was still owned by the Browns. But they, of course, had moved out
to Nevada.
Yeah, years prior.
Yeah, a few years before, yeah.
They'd been renting it out.
So it'd been rented out. But
family members and such.
Yeah, a lot of the Brown family members and friends is the Brown Hotel, Family Members and Friends Hotel. But Kody had decided he wanted to sell this house and didn't want to keep renting it out. And so the Zarahemla Foundation was looking for a new place to meet, and we just kind of prayerfully considered it and decided that that would be a good fit for our family. So we purchased the house in large measure so that the Zarahemla Foundation could keep having a place to meet, but also it was a good fit for us as well.
Mm-hmm. I didn't know houses like this existed.
Right.
I didn't know houses designed for multiple wives even existed. Like, I was totally blown away. We came here the first time, and as we were leaving, I think Melissa said, maybe it was Joshua, one of them said, this is the house from the TV show Sister Wives, which I'd never watched before. But we went home and looked up like a tour of the house. You can walk through it and see that like the apartments are connected on the inside, which makes it great for like people coming and going a lot, you know. And I knew I wanted to live, if not in this house, a house like it. So it really worked out well for us.
Yeah.
Yeah, the first time I walked in for that fellowship meeting, the Spirit was like, you're home. And I thought that meant, the fellowship, you know, and the interactions and relationships we developed there. I didn't know that this was my home. So kind of funny.
Yeah, and actually even more than that, because there are 3 apartments, but you're actually
walked through that door.
Yeah.
It was in my home.
This is where the fellowship was meeting at first. Yeah.
So the fellowship bought the house, or you bought the house?
We bought the house, but allowed the fellowship to keep, allowed the fellowship to keep using it as a space.
Oh, I see. Oh, so they were meeting here before you bought the house.
Yes, while Kody Brown owned it, but he was it wasn't going to be allowed anymore once
it
changed owners.
So the Zarahemla Foundation, is this like a polygamist group, or what is it? I'm not sure.
No. Yeah, and I know that a lot of people, when they think of when they think of fundamentalists, they think like the most important thing about fundamentalists is polygamy.
Yeah.
And we don't feel that way. And there's many, many fundamentalists who are not actually plurally married.
Right.
I would say the majority probably are not.
Fundamentalism came as a result of the multiple manifestos that essentially cut off, a fraction of the members of the church.
Yeah, I would say
disenfranchised them.
Yeah, polygamy was the cause for the split between the mainstream church and the fundamentalist groups. But fundamentalism is larger than that. Fundamentalists are generally interested in preserving the original principles as far as they can tell what those might be. And like nobody disputes that the church, the mainstream church, the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, has changed, evolved over the years in scores of ways. And so the debate is whether those changes were good or not. So some people think they are, and fundamentalists generally think that they're not good, and it would be better if we kind of kept the earlier versions of the religion. So, but the Zarahemla Foundation is an independent fundamentalist project. Kind of, it's basically like a non-denominational fellowship, and we meet together. Actually, we can just kind of briefly give an overview of the Zarahemla Foundation, and then we can talk more about it. Actually, we kind of want to give you an overview of a lot of the kind of independent fundamentalist projects that we and other people that we know are working on. So like to give you a flavor of what it's like to be an independent fundamentalist. Okay. And part of it is because when we were excommunicated, one of the things that the stake president said to me, was that he felt sad for me that me and my family would not have opportunities to serve anywhere anymore or that would be severely limited, our opportunities to serve because we don't have that church.
Because there's only one place to serve,
That's
and
all
that's in
he
the
knows.
church.
That's all he knows.
Church callings and service projects.
Right. And, and that's a fair point. And it is true that having a church structure, like service is just kind of built into that. Service in your callings, and you have neighbors usually who are members of the ward or whatever. And so, but what we have experienced, and I think I speak for us all, is that we have had just as many, I would say more, opportunities to serve and to build God's kingdom as independent people than as members of the church. Now, I would say all of us were always kind of church and kingdom minded. Like that was always a priority. And I think you definitely could be independent and lazy and end up not doing much, but you could also be a member of the church and be, slothful servants and end up not doing much either. So I don't think that it matters actually as much about where you find yourself as much as your own kind of motivation and drive. To quote Elder Uchtdorf, which I like, he said, "Lift where you stand." Right, this is famous. You remember that conference talk? There's probably T-shirts with that or something. I don't know.
And to quote another great man, be anxiously engaged in a good cause.
In a good cause. Yeah, I love that. So anyway, we've been anxiously engaged. So the Zarahemla Foundation is open to all members of the Restoration, and it's we have meetings like a couple times a month. We'll have like gospel doctrine and sacrament meeting. But the bigger thing that the Zarahemla Foundation does is hosts festival parties for Hanukkah and Passover and the Feast of Tabernacles and the Feast of Weeks and the Feast of Trumpets and Yom Kippur, the Day of Atonement. So we do all of these Israelite celebrations that are found throughout the scriptures, and we invite actually people. There's people from the mainstream church that come, and we have independent people that come, and people from the various groups from Christ Church and from the AUB and Nelson Nailers sometimes. Kingston's, yeah. Actually, we have kind of friends and acquaintances in all of the different kind of branches of the tree that is the Restoration, the tree of the Restoration, or Mormonism. And so we invite them to come and celebrate these things. And we feel like that's important. Actually, I'm going to, if you would indulge me, I'm going to share 2 scriptures as to why the feasts and feast days should be important to Latter-day Saints.
Okay, because, one of the things was to talk about cultural appropriation, and I know sometimes Jewish people get offended when Christians are practicing all the old Jewish feasts, and so I'm curious about that.
Okay, so there's actually a really big misunderstanding about Jewish feasts. Now, these, like, let's say Passover, for example. It is called a Jewish feast. That is because the Jews are the ones that have kept it. But the feast was not actually given to the Jews.
Right.
The commandment to keep that was given to all of Israel. And then at some point, the kingdom split to the northern and southern kingdom. And the southern kingdom was Judah, and the northern kingdom was Israel. if you remember this, just after Solomon, right? The northern kingdom eventually gets captured by Assyria and scattered to the north and the west, the scriptures say. And so, we believe, and, Latter-day Saints generally believe that a lot of that scattering happened through European tribes, actually. The southern kingdom, which was called Judah, and not because only people from the tribe of Judah lived there, but there was also the tribe of Benjamin and the tribe of Levi predominantly, but the members of other tribes too. But anyway, modern day Jews are not necessarily from the tribe of Judah, although most of them are, or many of them are. They are called Jews because they're from the southern kingdom, like ancestrally of Judah. And so they have kept these things alive. But originally, the commandments to keep Passover, for example, was given to the entire house of Israel. And so as Latter-day Saints, and I say Latter-day Saints instead of members of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, because when I say Latter-day Saints, I'm referring to actually all the branches of Mormonism, which you're well aware there's dozens.
Yeah, I've had 24 on my show.
Yeah, absolutely. So
24 different groups.
Branches.
Okay, that's pretty good.
That's awesome.
that's pretty good.
Big tree.
It's a big tree. Yeah. And some branches are definitely bigger than others. Okay. But from the very beginning, and our scriptures are full of it, like we claim to be Israelites, not Jews, but we claim to be the house of Israel. Whether that's by birth, in our long history past, or whether it's by, adoption and being grafted in, it doesn't matter. We claim that. And so the commandments to Israel to celebrate these things forever are part of our heritage too. And so I'm going to read two. One is in the last chapter of Zechariah. And this actually is interesting because this actually has more than Israelites even keeping the feast. So Zechariah 14, verse 16. And it shall come to pass, and this is like during the millennium. Okay, this is after Christ's second coming. It shall come to pass that everyone that is left of all the nations which came up against Jerusalem shall even go up from year to year to worship the King, the Lord of hosts, and to keep the Feast of Tabernacles. And it shall be that whosoever will not come up of all the families of the earth unto Jerusalem to worship the King, the Lord of hosts, even upon them shall be no rain. And if the family of Egypt go not up, and come not, that have no rain, there shall be the plague wherewith the Lord will smite the heathen that come not up to keep the Feast of Tabernacles. So even as it says, all the nations in the millennium are going to be celebrating the Feast of Tabernacles. And actually, Joseph Smith quotes this, and Orson Pratt quotes this chapter like that. This is going to be part of the restoration. So, and we believe that that's going to be part of the restoration, but we want to start like practicing now, I guess. The other one, I'm just going to read one more, and I could read more, but at the Last Supper, this is Luke chapter 22. Jesus says, verse 15, Jesus said, with desire, I have desired to eat this Passover with you before I suffer. Now, the Last Supper, there's debate about this, but I'm of the opinion that the Last Supper wasn't Passover, although it had Passover significance. Right. Jesus actually kept the Passover by being the lamb. So this supper that they had the night before, it wasn't the Passover, and Jesus says here, I really wanted to eat this Passover with you, but he says, but I say unto you, I will not any more eat thereof until it be fulfilled, which is written in the prophets concerning me. Then I will partake, meaning the Passover, then I will partake with you in the kingdom of God. So when Jesus comes back, he's going to have the Passover with his disciples. And so if and we hope to be in that meeting, we want to be at that feast. And so we can see in the scriptures that these things that was the JST, by the way. The JST actually makes it very clear.
Joseph Smith translation.
Yeah.
For those who aren't necessarily, that might not know.
Yes, yeah, the inspired version, right? So Joseph Smith makes it very clear that he is expecting, as part of the restoration, that these festivals are going to be kept even into the millennium. So the Zarahemla Foundation has been kind of a vehicle to do this. So that's probably more of a introduction than we wanted. Let's see. We had some other things that we wanted to talk about. We actually run a charity house. I'll talk about that a little bit. When have you ever been down to Rockland Ranch or have you heard of Rockland Ranch?
Is that by Moab?
Moab, yeah.
So I have an interview scheduled with somebody that I'm going to learn more about it. But at this point, I don't know. I've heard of it.
It's a very cool place. And we've been down there a few times. And the first time we went down there, they showed us this house that they have, which is called the Charity House. And it's quite large and it has different apartments. And it is exactly what it sounds like. It's a place for people to stay kind of short term until they figure things out. And so the house that I grew up in, my parents had passed away, and I actually decided to purchase that from my siblings, and we have used that as a charity house now for the last
9 years.
9 years.
Yep.
We've had, I don't know, a dozen families or something like that live there, and it's just kind of word of mouth. People who need it, they live there rent free, and it's supported by donations and things. So that's kind of and we've had a lot of different people from different branches of the restoration, like help with donations and with labor and with supplies and things. There was a lot of fixing up that needed to be done.
So we did a lot of service projects, cleaning it and painting it and
Landscape work.
Yeah, new flooring and
tile,
yeah,
appliances.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Do you guys want to pull out your list, or you just want me to announce them and you can talk about them?
Yeah, go for it.
Okay. Weekly women's prayer meeting.
Yeah, so Charlotte informed me last night that we've been doing that for a year now. Mm-hmm. And just once a week, we gather for a prayer meeting, and we keep a list of people that have asked us for prayers. Sometimes I'll post that to my social media and ask, if anybody has a need for a prayer request, then to just send that to me privately. And so we recently opened that up to a Telegram call?
Yeah, like a phone call. Yeah.
And so we were having some concerns with distance and with people being able to physically get away. And so we've just created a place where, a time, I guess, where people can come to our home and pray with us, or to go ahead and just join us on Telegram.
All right. So. We're just going to go over these briefly. Yeah. We actually teach classes about winemaking. And we do that because the scriptures say, so both in section...
You're not against the word of wisdom?
It is actually in keeping with the word of wisdom. Says the wine should be of your own make. And section 27, that's section 89, right? 89 in the Utah Doctrine and Covenants. Section 27 of the Utah Doctrine and Covenants. And that might be the same as the RLDS, I don't know, or Community of Christ now. But anyway, regardless, section 27 in the Utah also talks about wine of your own make. That's what it should be. And that's the way it was in the early days of the church too. Actually, interesting, section 27, if you read history of the church, just kind of surrounding it, of course, section 27 says, paraphrasing, it doesn't matter what you eat or drink as long as you are doing it with
an icing
of glory. Yeah. And so a lot of people think that this is the revelation that Joseph Smith got to start having water instead of wine. But if you actually read what comes right after that revelation in history of the church, Joseph Smith says, in obedience to the revelation, we got some grapes and made our own wine and then had our meeting.
And that revelation was given late, they don't have an exact date, but it was late August, early September, which is exactly when the grape harvest is.
So when it became compulsory to use water was not until like a century later,
right?
The 1920s, and that was because of Prohibition and Heber J. President Grant wanting to support the temperance movement.
So this winemaking that you guys do is extremely low alcohol. Is that correct?
It's normal alcohol for wine, and wine it's only fermented, so it's not distilled. The distilled is what the Word of Wisdom calls strong drinks. So that's like whiskey and vodka, and it recommends that we avoid those things. Those are not for the belly or for the body. but for the washing of your bodies, it says. And there's some interesting history about that too. But we teach class and we also make wine, and there's quite a few independent folks that actually use wine for the sacrament that we make or that we've taught them to make. So that's kind of fun.
I think, is it Nielsen Naylor up in Malad, Idaho?
Yes.
Are they one of the groups? Yeah. I
Yeah.
think so.
Yeah. Did they tell you about?
Well, because I interviewed David Nielsen.
Yeah.
And
He told me that they switched to wine after.
Well, what he said was the Malad, Idaho group uses wine and the Bluffdale, Utah group uses water.
That's right. I'm still working
They're
on
not
that.
converted yet.
Yeah.
I'm still working on them. But okay. We talked about Zarahemla Foundation. We also have the Mormon Legacy Ministries. Have you heard of the Mormon Legacy Ministries?
I have not heard of it.
You're going to later today. I know you have another interview with Justin Frankham.
Is that part of that?
I guarantee he's going to talk about that. But Mormon Legacy Ministries, just briefly, is again, it's mostly it's independent fundamentalists that have put this together. And
Well, some of them are members of groups.
oh, that's true.
Yeah.
It's a broad coalition, but many of them are independents. I would say most are independents.
Yeah, I would say the same.
Yeah, and they've asked me to be the bishop of the Mormon Legacy Ministries.
Oh.
So, but the Mormon Legacy Ministries is kind of, again, it's kind of similar to the Zarahemla Foundation in some ways, but it's a non-denominational place where people.
Is that what you would call kind of all independents? Or they're just kind of non-denominational Mormons?
I mean, I think that's a good way to put it. Yeah, I would say that. Not everyone would probably agree with that, but I do think that's a pretty accurate description, basically.
So you guys accept the term Mormon? Are you Mormon?
I absolutely love the term Mormon.
I have a testimony with the Book of Mormon, so yes, I will
Yes.
claim that.
Yeah, I don't have any problem with that, and I would say dyed in the wool, true blue through and through.
It's like Joseph F. Smith.
Like Joseph F. Smith, yeah. So let's see. So the Mormon Legacy Ministries, the idea is that there are probably traditional members of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints who are like traditionally minded or even fundamentalist leaning, who may have problems with the accelerated pace of changing the temple ceremony and things like that. But maybe just don't realize that there might be other more like-minded people that they could associate with and worship with. And so Mormon Legacy Ministries is kind of a place to be welcoming to those kind of people, and not necessarily that the Mormon Legacy Ministries is going to be a church for them, but that it's going to be a stepping stone, either to teach them how to be independent or to introduce them to the other different groups that they may want to associate with. So anyway, so we'll talk more about that.
It's a way to explore, other options, other branches in Mormonism to see if you're a better fit for somewhere else.
Yeah. So
And to still have the support in doing that.
Okay.
Exactly. So, and we've been involved in that in a number of different ways, and we'll talk more about that in a minute. But there's also another kind of independent project is the temple out in Bountiful, Missouri.
Yes.
Yeah, Bountiful, or what's the other name for it? Arnica.
Arnica, yeah.
Yeah.
It's
So
near Humansville. Well, I guess Humansville is the nearest closest town, but
it's
not
in
near
between
to-
Humansville and Stockton, Missouri. Yeah, I think Stockton's a little closer, but Humansville's bigger.
Okay.
I think,
All I know is it's the middle of nowhere.
Yeah, and
literally, yes.
That's where we met.
that's right. That is where we met for the first time in person, and it was.
Can I show that picture?
Yeah. Yeah, you can show that picture. That was fun. And that was pretty, I think it's amazing what a bunch of independent fundamentalists did out in the middle of nowhere. It's a beautiful temple. Yeah.
Yeah, very beautiful.
Yeah.
I thought the celestial room was amazing.
Yes. Yeah. And you helped in there.
I did.
You
help
helped,
them.
you helped to steam the curtains.
That's right.
Yeah.
And for those who don't know, what I thought was just amazing, they have kind of a dome ceiling that they've painted sky and clouds on, and then they projected the night sky on the ceiling so that it's accurate for the Missouri sky of where the different constellations are, and then put in fiber optic cables, and then they shut the curtains and were like, look, the stars even twinkle. And I was like, that is really cool.
And they're different brightnesses.
Yeah, it was great.
Yeah.
It was awesome.
Yeah, the attention to detail is wonderful. Like many temples, there's details and stories behind every bit of the construction.
Yeah, it's a beautiful temple.
So we were really pleased to participate in that, and we'll talk more about that. There is also recently we've started a friend of mine named Elior Walker. He's also independent.
Yeah, I met him.
Oh yeah, did you meet him at our house before?
Yeah.
Okay. Oh, and maybe he was actually also at the park that day when we were doing baptisms in the Jordan River. There, yeah. Anyway, he and I have started what I like to call the Acts 15 podcast. And he has another name for it. He likes to call it the Go Follow Yeshua. Yeshua is the Hebrew name for Jesus.
Uh-huh.
So Go Follow Yeshua. It's like come follow me, but Go Follow Yeshua podcast. And basically we're going through the Torah, which is the 5 books of Moses, which are they're the oldest scriptures that we have, essentially, right? And they're kind of the foundation actually for all of the Judeo-Christian tradition is based upon the Torah or the 5 books of Moses. And so we're going through with like a Mormon or like a restorationist lens and making connections. And we want to show people how like beautiful and relevant these old scriptures can be still. And this goes along with our celebration of the feasts and things like that. Mm-hmm. So, and then we also have what's called the Restoration Torah Conference, and this is the last item on my list. But again, this is an independent thing. This is kind of the Zarahemla Foundation sponsors this, but we have it every year. It coincides with the Feast of Pentecost, which in the New Testament is when there was the speaking in tongues and all of that. But this day of Pentecost actually goes back to the Old Testament. This is actually the day when Israel received the covenant at Mount Sinai, and God came down on the mountain, and there was the fire and the lightning and all of that, and God gives them the 10 Commandments and other laws. That was on this Hebrew day, Shavuot, or Greek is Pentecost. It's called Pentecost because it's 50 days after Passover, basically.
Right.
So we have we have this conference every year, and we're on
We've done 6, so this will be our 7th
year, where we'll have, again, it's open up to anyone from any branch of the Restoration to come and give a talk. And there's usually a theme every year, but come and give a talk about the importance or relevance of some portion of the Old Testament, through a restoration lens, basically. So yeah, and that's been very exciting to have that. Like I said, we're on our 7th year. We usually have a book that has all of the conference talks it's the conference journal, and we publish those. So yeah, that's kind of the list.
I hope you enjoyed our conversation with the Ericksons, Joshua, Melissa, and Charlotte. In our next conversation, we're going to talk about how they claim authority, even though they're not part of any polygamous group.
Yeah, so when you talk about claim authority, I can see how fundamentalists would find that offensive because, the church also has a claim on authority.
Absolutely.
And this is the first...
The LDS Church claims authority.
Yes, and this is the first fight that happens when we try to bring the tree together and bring the branches together to even have an activity together.
If you'd like to hear the entire conversation without any interruptions, sign up at patreon.com/gospeltangents and you can hear the entire video or audio uncut, whichever you'd like. So this is part of the Gospel Tangents podcast network, and so please sign up today and support Gospel Tangents.